Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving into something that affects literally every single one of us. Communication. More specifically, how do we stop just talking and actually start being understood? So let me ask you something. Have you ever been in that situation where you think you're being crystal clear, but the person you're talking to, they just give you that blank stare? It is so frustrating, right? And look, it happens to all of us. Okay, so to really get what works, I think we first have to look at what happens when things go, well, spectacularly wrong. Think of this next part as a masterclass in exactly what not to do. All right, let's meet our main character, Frank. He's a brand new high school teacher over in Paris. It's his first day, he's walking into his very first class, and you know the feeling. He's excited, he's prepared, he is ready to make a fantastic impression. But here's the thing. He's not exactly teaching something simple. His subject is history of political doctrines. Yeah, and to make things even harder, his class is a really tough crowd. We're talking a diverse group of kids, a lot of whom are repeating the year. So you know they've seen it all before. And how did it go? Well, it was a total, unmitigated disaster. The students were completely checked out, nobody was paying attention, some were even openly making fun of him. At one point, a student just stood up and walked right out. He just could not connect with them at all. So where did Frank go wrong? I mean, the easy answer is pretty much everywhere. But why he failed? That's the real key. The reasons are what can unlock better communication for all of us. So let's break down his approach and see what we can learn. To really figure this out, to properly diagnose what went wrong with Frank, we need a framework. And that framework has a name: mindful communication. So, what is mindful communication? Look, it's not just about picking the right words. It's about being consciously aware of your message, who you're talking to, and that invisible line between the two. It's the huge difference between just talking at someone and actually connecting with them. This idea brings us to something called the expressive code. You can think of these as the building blocks for mindful communication. Of course, it starts with your words. That's the good dialectics part. But it goes way beyond that. It's about understanding your own emotions, knowing your audience, realizing what your nonverbal cues are saying, and even taking responsibility for your feelings. It's the whole package. And our friend Frank, yeah, he pretty much broke every single one of these rules. And in doing so, he fell into some super common communication traps. You know, the kind of traps that, if we're being totally honest with ourselves, we've probably all stumbled into once or twice. Just look at this list. It's like Frank's report card, and he's not getting good grades. He was absolutely guilty of overcomplicating his message, throwing all this technical jargon at them. And maybe the biggest one, he completely ignored his students' feelings and where they were coming from. He just assumed they knew all this stuff, and they just didn't. Okay, so that's the problem. We know what went wrong. The big question is, how do we make it right? So let's get practical. Let's dive into the communication toolkit that Frank and, all of us can use to fix these kinds of mistakes. All right, tool number 1. This is going to sound so obvious, but it is the absolute foundation. Listen. And I don't just mean waiting for your turn to talk. I mean actively listening, really working to understand where the other person is coming from before you even think about your response. Next up, empathy. This is huge. Empathy is basically the bridge that connects you to your audience. For Frank, this would have meant realizing his students had different backgrounds, different struggles, different needs. For us, it's that classic advice: really try to put yourself in the other person's shoes. Tool number 3, know your stuff. This really just boils down to confidence. See, when you're truly secure in what you're talking about, you can explain it simply. You can be clear, you can be concise. Frank's super technical lecture, that probably came from a place of insecurity, right? He was trying to prove he was an expert instead of just sharing his knowledge. And number 4, choose the right time and place. Seriously, context is king. I mean, think about it. You're not going to try to have a super serious, deep conversation in the middle of a loud, crazy party, right? Of course not. The environment, the context, can be just as important as the actual words you use. But here's the thing. All these tools we've talked about, listening, empathy, confidence, context, they're just part of the story. Because the biggest piece of this whole communication puzzle is the one we almost always forget about. It's what our bodies are screaming when our mouths are shut. Okay, get ready for this number because it's a big one. According to a ton of research, up to
93% of all our communication is nonverbal. Just let that sink in for a second. 93%. That means the vast, overwhelming majority of your message has absolutely nothing to do with the words you're saying.
And here's how that breaks down. Look at this. A tiny 7%. That's your words. 38% is your tone of voice. And a whopping 55%. That's your body language. It's not an exaggeration to say that what your body is doing shouts way, way louder than anything your mouth is saying. So let's go back to Frank for a second. Imagine him up there. A rigid, stiff posture, that's screaming insecurity. If his arms were crossed, that's a literal barrier between him and his students. See, your body can either be your best ally supporting your words, or it can totally betray you.
Okay, so now we're armed with this new toolkit. Let's do a little thought experiment. Let's go back and fix Frank's terrible first day. How could he have flipped the script and turned that total failure into a success?
Here's the makeover plan. It's actually pretty simple when you break it down. Instead of all that technical jargon, he could have just used simple, clear language. Instead of that formal, standoffish attitude, he could have shown some empathy, tried to build a little rapport. And instead of that closed-off, insecure body language, just an open, confident posture. The point is, he doesn't have to become a different person. He just has to learn how to use the right tools. And really, this is the main takeaway. The crucial point is this. Real, effective communication, it only happens when everything is in sync. When your words, your tone of voice, and your body language are all telling the exact same story. That's the magic moment. That's when you go from just being heard to being truly, deeply understood. So that brings it all back to you. And look, you don't have to change everything overnight. Just think about it. What's one thing? Maybe it's listening a little more carefully, or maybe it's just paying attention to whether your arms are crossed. What is the one small skill you're going to practice this week to start your own communication makeover?